we're gonna start this cold, boys.
All right.
Yeah.
Right,
Well, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go manage some of my mom's food, but I will be present.
All right. Well,
Church
we
house
are.
gonna be hard, but you gotta run the show without me
sweet.
here to
We
keep you on
are.
task.
We are
Hold
live,
up.
boys and girls.
Hold up,
Go ahead.
hold up. Inchai Comic Guy has liked the little Twitter link that Matt just posted that we're going to be on this show right now.
Oh, well, I just put a link out as well where I tagged everybody.
Yeah.
Hopefully some people will start filtering in here soon. Anyway, ladies and gentlemen, how's it going?
Yeah, doing good, doing fine.
Yeah.
Good Saturday.
Well, this is the cold open. I'll actually have to do the real intro here in a few minutes, but give the link a little bit of time to permeate and see if anybody wants to come watch our ridiculous show. Let's see what's going on. Maybe Ayrton will come back. Who knows?
Yeah, I'm liking what you guys do. You got a fun thing going on here.
We drink and we know things. We're basically tall Tyrion Lannisters.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Does that mean that I'm the actual midget in this, or the actual dwarf in this setup? Because you needed at least one cripple person.
Yes.
Well, hold up. Like, how tall are you?
I'm too tall to be a dwarf.
Well, no, like seriously, what kind of numbers are we working with?
But then again, I've got cerebral palsy, so I mean.
He's 7'2", Larry.
That's
well. Then again, I mean, in Terry Pratchett, they've got. Well, no. Terry Pratchett is a very tall dwarf in Captain Carrot, so I mean, we could have. I could be a tall dwarf. Then again, I was always under the impression that if we had to have a drunken dwarf, it should just be Cripple Jesus.
Yeah. He doesn't drink enough for my taste, though. Like he got up his numbers. He's working with rookie numbers.
I mean, well, that's the thing is I don't drink at all. So
yeah. Well, that I can respect, but not
can't be a Tyrion. I'm not.
Well, you can be
sufficiently in drunkenness.
You can be a reformed Tyrion. He quit drinking about halfway through the books.
Yeah, but that's the Tyrion I like the least.
Well. Anyway, before we get too far into the Game of Thrones references, and while Ayrton's getting his mic set up, we have a first-time guest on the show, Matt C. I think I fully doxed you based on your Twitter handle.
I'm doxed. I'm fully doxed.
Oh crap! I mean, I was following this person, so I mean, I was keeping an eye on them for you, Church.
Yeah. But Matt C. Larry, are you actually involved with the book, or are you just like a hype man for this particular project?
I co-wrote the Ashcan story. As you know, because I talked to you about it, because you were.
I am tangentially involved and would like all of the credit.
And I actually had to explain to my mother what co-writing actually means in the context of a comic book.
Ayrton, Matt, are you back? Are you back, Ayrton? He's still dead, ladies and gentlemen.
Okay. So I had to explain to my mother is Matt had the idea. I pitched a couple of ways to execute it. Then I came up with a story structure. Then we went back and forth a little bit about that. Then Matt polished up all the lingo because making something that's true to both Kipling and Conan Doyle, that is a special dialogue.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And that is a true co-authorship scenario.
Oh, is this one of the stories that I proofread?
I mean, you looked at one of my rough draft scripts.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So yet again, we are tangentially involved, and we deserve all the credit, even though I wasn't involved at all.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah. So that's part of why I'm here, and my goal is to start, writing some other stuff, building a cachet of reputation, and then when I come to ask for a big buy-in for my comic, people will have some idea who I am.
Oh, we can hear Ayrton again.
Yep.
Hey, Ayrton.
You can hear me now?
We can hear you now.
God damn it. Fucking Discord. I swear to fucking God. This fucking piece of shit. Me and Matt were over in the goddamn waiting room. We were doing the sound check. Me and him were having a conversation. Fine to move over to the goddamn show chat. And all of a sudden, fucking Russia's hacking in, and Hillary Clinton's over here in the background trying to fucking strangle me with a bed sheet. son of a bitch.
Man.
Anyways,
And it's
Gotta
usually
watch out for that.
it's usually me with the audio problems, and I never lose my shit like that.
anyways, so how are you guys doing?
We're doing great.
Won't
We're
you
doing
be
great.
my neighbor?
I guess that means it's time for the regular real intro now. Everyone watching
Yeah.
the show will notice that this is a Church of Failure and not your standard Gospel of Comics, because we're going to promote a book tonight, and we're going to talk about some serious big boy stuff. And the serious big boy stuff is why more people need church in their life, even if it is a church of failure.
Y'all need Jesus.
Now, as a good host, I'm going to open it up to our guests, Larry and Matt, before we do the proper intro. In what order would you like to tackle these topics? Do you like to start on a good note and move into the creepy shit, or do you want to start with the creepy shit and end on a good note?
I mean, I personally would rather start with the comic. That way, we'll all have a good vibe, and then when we can talk about horrible things, we'll have already promoted the comic.
You just want people to be able to click
I
off
can
when we
dig
start talking about the crazy shit. Got it.
I mean, that does seem like the best way to treat your audience.
Okay, all right. Well, I'm trying to treat my guest here because I don't know on which way you wanted to load this, but we'll start with the book. So
And
without
then after the book, as soon as we do that, maybe we pull off the Band-Aid sooner than later. So I think that we can.
All right.
It won't be looming over us,
All
for
right.
too long.
Well,
But yeah, I'm interested in this opener. I've heard a lot about it.
Oh, the intro that we're finally
Yeah.
getting to. What is it? 6-7 minutes in. We're finally
Yeah.
getting to the intro. Man, we're so almost on schedule. It's crazy.
See, didn't I tell you, Matt? Like 10:05.
Yeah.
There is a sixth dimension beyond that which is known to man. A multiverse as vast as eternity, as timeless as the Infinity Gems. It is the middle ground between the big two and the indie publishers, between sci-fi and mysticism, and it lies between the pages of the reader's imagination. At the summit of entertainment, the dimension of comics, where a humble service is held. We call this service the Gospel of Comics.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Gospel of Comics, where I'm your host, the Church of Failure. With me, as always, is my trusty co-host, Ayrton McCartney, and RuneKnight, if he is back with us. How you boys doing this week?
It's been a fucking week.
Been a week.
Let me tell you.
Looks like
it's been a goddamn week. And then
looks like RuneKnight's still away.
Yeah, and then I'm in the fucking Twitter DMs, and you guys start sending me the shit that we're going to talk about after these guys.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But
really?
but
I'm not
before
I'm just sitting there going like, it's already been a fucking week, and really we're going to talk about this shit.
We have to.
That's why we're going to talk about a book first. So we all feel good.
As you can hear, we are joined in the virtual studio by one Larry Bernard, aka Mr. Karasoff, and Matt C, currently doxed in my my YouTube description.
No, I love it. Yeah,
you know what's weird about doxing? Remember how we used to get a book?
It's only spelled with one X.
right. You remember how we used to just get a book?
I don't know about you guys, but I spell it with 3.
Yes, the yearbook, and I was talking the other day about how the yearbook was basically our little black book in high school, because you would write everyone's phone numbers down in it, and you would memorize that chick that you had the big crush on. And nowadays, the only number you remember is maybe your spouse's or your parents in case you get locked up.
Yep.
Like you don't even know your own phone number by heart.
I know my dad's, my boss's, and my ex-wife's phone number off the top of my head.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like I know my wife's phone number.
You don't have your middle school best friend's phone number still memorized?
I do, but that one's disconnected.
Let's see. Happy Jam in the chat says, "What's this? This
is
a shit show."
It is. It is. Welcome to the shit show, Happy Jam.
I've been drinking since about 5:45, 6 o'clock. So.
Oh, good lord! That means when you were doing show prep, you were drinking. So you're currently still drinking, so you won't forget anything that you learned. Even though what you learned, you're going to want to forget with your hangover tomorrow.
Correct.
Got it. I understand now. Good job. That was smart planning. Somebody watched How High this week.
I learned from watching you.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Who are these people, and where is my alcohol? Anyway, Larry, Matt, without further ado, why don't you tell the people why we're here today? Because I usually have no fucking idea, even though I run this shit show.
Well, I guess we're here to do some fun shilling.
Oh yeah,
that's all right with you guys.
I mean we love shilling.
Shill it up, motherfucker.
That's right. We like shilling for people who make quality product and not degeneracy. And even some degeneracy, like we've had furries on this show, and we're okay with it. But you know,
Rune's a furry.
I mean, you had Wenger on the show talking about super harem.
Well, Wenger's not super harem's not a degenerate thing. That's a lifestyle choice.
Can I just say I miss Wenger?
Where did he go? Is he like on a hiatus or sabbatical or something?
I think he ascended. I don't know. He like joined. I don't know. I think he was last seen at like the.
Did the FBI get him or something? Did Commie Mark finally take him out so that Commie Mark could absorb his greatness?
Are we talking about me being taken out?
No. Wenger. Nobody's seen Wenger. I guess I need to get him on a milk carton or some shit.
Wait, like the band?
No. We've had him on the show. You might not have been here for that. Wenger.
I don't know who anybody is, man.
Anyway, I've got this campaign. I've got this campaign pulled up. Wild Tales of Kyrie, I'm assuming is how you pronounce that.
Yeah.
Okay, an anthology of high adventures across time. We've got a humble goal of $500. Now, be honest with me. Well, first off, are you running this particular campaign, or are you how are you?
Yep.
Okay, you're running the campaign, so you can actually answer this question. Could you actually pull anything off with just the $500? Like, say you got to $507, where would you be with this campaign?
Well, I'll tell you something.
Okay.
In previous campaigns, I have had the fixed goal of $500, and that was me gambling. But from the successes of those previous campaigns, Kyrie Books 1 and 2, over the past 2020, I fulfilled both of those in 2020 and ran them both.
Yeah.
The profits from that paid for this comic, so I could fulfill with $500 this time. So
okay, all right. So you roll the dice once or twice, and then you build up a little bit of a back fund to cover your further bets. I understand. Okay, and I didn't mean
said before. That's what my dad said before he went out for cigarettes the last time.
Right. Yeah. So and that wasn't meant as like a stab or anything. I just always wondered how people because you see shit like Cyberfrog do it. Like you see shit like Cyberfrog do it, and there's no way that you could fulfill a comic like Cyberfrog off of $1,500.
Yeah, I have no idea how Ethan thinks through things, but I guess I know that we're all playing the algorithm.
Nobody does.
Yeah.
I have a rock.
We're all trying to get ahead of the algorithm.
That's what 30 years of cocaine will do to you.
Well, look, he's got to know.
Look, that's 30 years. That's 30 years of pie, my friend. That's the more obvious thing. Like cocaine makes you skinny, dog.
That's fair.
Anyway, an anthology of high adventures across time. So we already have the implication of time travel. We've got a humble goal of $500, which was absolutely crushed within 6 days of launching. And
it was crushed within a couple hours, wasn't it?
Excuse me, Larry. I was going to get there.
Okay, right on.
So, and you just heard it straight from the creator's mouth, ladies and gentlemen, that even if he would have only made $500, this book would be fulfilled. So there's literally no danger to opening your wallet right now and backing one of these perks. The single Rubicon Club comic pack, the Wild Tales PDFs for just $7 US, the gloss cover and ash can for 15, or the holographic and ash can for 20. You've got graphic novels 1 and 2 as a bundle for $35. Got an 8x10 original art commission and a $100 8-slot Crisis original page, or Kandar Crisis original page. And the original art is literally just the artwork. It's not the book as well. Correct? You can add it on, I'm guessing, as an add-on.
Well, that's a good question. So the artist for Larry and I's Ash Can is Jesse White, and he is Canadian, so he's fulfilling it from Canada.
Okay.
And,
all right. Yeah, Gooseland, maple syrup, got it.
Yeah, and I think, I mean, he could sweeten the deal. But, yeah, and we had sold one of those already, but
Ayrton, be less drunk and let people talk.
Oh no. No, but it's not too complicated of a campaign. The hardest part is, I mean, we did a lot of pre-launch deals. People got a couple dollars off the holo and the gloss book, and they got $5 off the Rubicon Club if they signed up for the pre-launch. And we ran that for, I don't know, it was like 3 months or something. People were pretty annoyed by that point. People were like, "Aren't you gonna actually launch this?" So we just launched it Monday, without much fanfare, and we've been able. Yeah, I mean, we're doing okay. I think this is actually running a bit higher than my previous books, and we broke 5 figures last year.
I apparently broke Ayrton. I'm so sorry. Or no, we broke. The
music bot left.
I broke the bot.
Left.
No, I just made the. I made the bot leave.
Oh.
I moved it because it was fucking up my my aesthetics. Like, it wasn't part of the conversation. I didn't need its icon on the screen.
Yeah. Sorry for interrupting. I thought I had made a faux pas.
And the great part about the PDF tier is I have friends in Europe.
But I'm done drinking for the show, so be happy, Rune.
So I've had actual friends in Europe who said, "Oh yeah, I'll buy it," including one friend who was disappointed that he bought the 59th contribution to the campaign. He wasn't able to wait to the 69th.
Okay. All right.
Oh, I mean,
yeah. It's all about delayed gratification.
That's right. You just take a screenshot when the 69th backer backs.
That's what I told your mom last night.
Oh.
Oh.
Womp, womp, womp. Now, what is this? What is this official decoder ring?
Yeah. So
let's talk about this. This is interesting.
Yeah, we're going to have a lot of fun fulfilling this. So we're 3D printing a decoder ring.
Okay.
And that decoder ring comes with a little.
Awesome.
Yeah. And it features in our Larry and I's Kandahar Crisis Ash Can.
Yeah.
They actually dig this out of an Afghan warlord's tomb, this very thing, and then you get one, and inside of it is a little scroll, and you unroll that scroll, you get the code and the key, and you use those things to unlock the discount code for future Kyrie campaigns. So you're going to get discounts from now on.
Oh, do you think anybody's going to like put their weed in there when they're done decoding the message?
Oh, that's a good.
You can decode this message in the comic book and get a deal off, and also you can put your weed in there.
I was in fact thinking, like, the very first thing I thought was the question of, are there going to be parts of the book like script on walls and the like that can be decoded if you have the decoder ring for like plot secrets or at least cute jokes like Kilroy was here? You know?
So,
that's a great idea.
Only read this comic on a Saturday morning while eating very sugary cereal, folks. That's the takeaway we're getting here.
Mm-hmm.
I mean,
yeah, and that's the jive we're going for. So
I mean, has anyone actually investigated like how much would it cost to make a very short run of like those little one serving cereal boxes?
Wow, I actually really love that, like Fruity Pebbles or something.
That's the next level plan for a campaign. Like you having your own cereal.
Everyone's trying to upgrade,
on the front of the box.
Yeah.
I mean, look, here in the indie creative sphere, we've always wanted like
hold
good.
Hold on, Rune. I've got it.
Okay.
Count Churchill chocolate cereal.
I'm actually looking these up right now. I'm gonna go.
But why is the only flavor lemon? Church? Why is the only flavor lemon?
Kyrios.
Church, why does the cereal taste salty?
But no, I was gonna say, cause I'm the serious one around here. I think in the indie sphere we always have the aspiration to be as big or do the goofy things from corporate that we used to experience as kids. Like we would all love to have our character on a cereal box.
Yeah,
and yet we can't always meet that expectation. We can't always meet that aspiration. But
I'm a graphic designer. I can, but I understand what it's like. I can put my face and logos on anything I want to. Thank you very much. I currently have a baseball cap with a cartoon version of my face on it.
I mean, Church. Let's face it. It's not Count Churchilla. It's Disappointment O's.
I mean,
if you want to call your cereal that, you can. My cereal would be Awesome Cereal.
I just photoshopped a coworker presenting a bong down on one knee to King Arthur from Monty Python, like presenting a gift to a king. So
I should have never given you the power of Photoshop, Ayrton.
You really shouldn't. You really shouldn't have.
Anyway, continue, guys.
To Ayrton, enabling him to become He-Man.
I got distracted on the decoder ring just because that's awesome. That's the full view of it there.
I want a decoder ring so bad.
So we mentioned the decoder ring.
Yeah, obviously.
I will pimp slap a bitch for a decoder ring. Like, just saying.
Yeah, that's just for there's only one opportunity to get one left.
I mean, I have to ask.
We both couldn't do it, Ayrton. We could race for it right now, but
Are you going to slap them for any particular reason, or are you just going to randomly slap people until you get a decoder ring?
Yeah, I'm just going to randomly pimp slap people until I get a decoder ring.
So we have some very interesting historical periods featured in the story. There's the Anglo-Afghan War. There's the Russo-Japanese War. What were the other stories time-wise?
3rd century Southwest India, and then we've got something in Palmyra, which is like Syria in the 3rd century. And we're all kind of tying together. This takes place a bit after, if you read the Kyrie books so far. This is like 15 years afterwards, and we're seeing where some of the fallout and the consequences of the story that's been set up for you in the graphic novels, like where those characters have had to deal with the consequences of the main story and what that's led them to. So you're kind of getting a foreshadowing of where the main books that I write and draw are coming from, but you're seeing it. You're seeing that foreshadowed in either me writing it or co-writing it, but it being drawn by other artists, and we get to do more action, and more kind of variety in time periods and in locations. So it's just kind of fun. I think the brand for Kyrie, is like if you're into like kind of globe trekking cultural adventures, like where you like every story's kind of set in a new exotic locale, and it's just kind of like a celebration of cool stuff that you find, and dusty history, but just kind of turned up to 11. That's kind of what we do. So it's Indiana Jones and ancient Rome, and we start there, and then we've, as Larry says, we've broadened it out to 1904 Japan, and Leninist train robbers, and Indian assassins, and
it looks like we've got a fan in the chat. It says Hex Valiant Comics. I love Kyrie. Great art, dialogue, pacing. Let's see. It looks like you've been.
Hex Valiant's a great guy. Appreciate it.
Man. So.
So something else interesting is Matt is coloring all of these. So there's also a unifying thread of color throughout all the different comic stories.
Right. I did notice
is he using the Crayola 54 pack or like the smaller 28 pack?
Yeah, just the 28 goes a long way. You can just kind of double. Like I like to smush them both together, and you can kind of get mixtures.
Yeah. You just use your finger to blend the wax. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I understand. Now, I do notice that there's a bit of an art style shift in between the different stories. That's obviously, I'm guessing, intentional for the speed of production and things of that nature.
Yeah, well, it's it's artists that I like that draw action really well, and so if it's closer to the time period that the main books are set in, then it's a little more cartoony, which is closer to my style.
Okay.
Which I think. So I'm if that kind of makes sense. Like the farther back in time you go, the closer you get to my style, which is kind of Tintin like. And then the closer you get to modern day, it's more realistic.
Well, the question I really wanted to ask is: Have you noticed, or has anybody commented that maybe the consistency with coloring makes the art style shift a little less jarring? Because that's one of my main things when I'm reading an anthology or something like that, is if there's a heavy art shift in the middle of a book, it can be very jarring, and it can actually take you out of your immersion that's been built up. So even maybe you put, because I know that when it comes to editing, you'll put a good story up front, and then maybe a weaker story to follow it because you're already immersed in that first story. So you'll accept a little bit more, and you won't just stop reading a weaker story. So you can kind of pace a book a little bit in an anthology. But if the artwork is too jarring, that can cancel out that. So,
that's a good point.
Have you noticed, or has anybody commented that maybe the consistent color style? Because I do see Justin Dutton in the chat says this is a great series. Matt has such a unique color style. Do you think the consistency of the colors makes it easier to transition between stories without that jarring disconnect between the art styles?
Yeah, I might be thinking, maybe I'm putting on a graphic designer hat, and I'm thinking, we've got a lot of variety here, but there needs to be some sort of visual cohesion. You can't just slap a cover on 4 different stories from 4 very different artists, like very different artists, and expect maybe for it all to read 100% as a unit without something tying it together. So maybe I don't know how. I hope I was conscious of that, but yeah. I guess the main reason was that people like when people are reading my books, they think my drawing is a little weird, but they like the colors. So I thought I can contribute colors here, and I can hire better drawers than me, and people would track with that more, So every campaign, of course, is it's a chance to kind of tweak and refine and calibrate, and you hear a lot, thankfully, especially nowadays, you hear a lot about what people like and what they don't like. People feel very comfortable sharing that, and I welcome it. And so I know what I'm better at and what I'm not as good at, and that's not something I knew 2 years ago. So I know I can color these. I can color Jose Garcia's amazing art. So he just has to get me the inks, and yeah. So I guess I am trying to make it coherent with the colors. Yeah,
Okay.
that's a good question.
Well, thank you. I try to have good questions. So it's what a good host tries to do.
You see, church lulls people into complacency with goofy comments, and then does an actual good interview and asks serious, hard-hitting questions.
No, that was good.
And that's why I got nothing to say, because I'm just like, I'm going to let this very insightful commentary proceed, because I'm interested and I have no reason to undercut what Church is saying.
Well, and that's kind of the thing. Like I was thinking about it in terms.
my job.
Well, I was thinking about it in terms of a graphic designer, and we often said, Ayrton and I, when we're reviewing something, if there are multiple art styles in a book, they should. We applauded the idea of having house styles back in the day, because in current books, sometimes artists get double duty on a single issue. So you're not even breaking between stories, so you don't even have that disconnect. You turn the page in the middle of a book, and the art style just shifts drastically. And it kind of shakes you out of the immersion that you had built up, even if you didn't have that much, in which it's a much more jarring process, and it's a bigger detriment on the comic. So, I applaud the foresight to say, okay, well, I'm going to have multiple artists in these books, and I kind of wanted to lead that into the idea that, you've got over 200 pages of Kyrie available in this campaign. So you've obviously had some success with the work in the past. Has this been a consistent thing that you've done?
Consistent success? Why, yes.
No. The coloring choices. Because, like I said, I see you getting a lot of comments on how people appreciate your color style, your art style. So I mean, you obviously have a fan base, because a little show like ours, and we've got people in the comments saying, "Hey, this guy's great." People I've never seen before, so people follow you. And
well, there's a lot of nice people. I guess my approach has been it's funny, like you can take the YouTube approach, and it's a completely valid approach, and it's tried and true. But as far as I've been able to tell, like I don't know. I can do a 10-minute recording thing and put those out, and I've never really gotten a lot of traction with those. And honestly, I think people have their favorites of maybe 3 or 4, and the numbers keep, I think, going down in terms of how many YouTubers people have a bandwidth for.
So what you're saying is the YouTube approach is valid, but it's dog shit.
Well, it's oversaturated.
Well, if you're really funny, it works.
No, it's an oversaturated
like
market.
You guys.
Like, you've got, if you have 24 people in a single sphere, and you tangentially like all of them, you tend to gravitate to where the bigger audiences are, because you develop, friendships in the chat, you develop an interaction relationship with the creator. And, you tend to gravitate towards those areas, unless you're like us, and a complete and utter, like, recluse, and just want to have your own little corner of the internet to talk shit.
Or it's like 8-track enthusiasts here. People who are really super duper enthusiastic for 8-track.
Right. So, but anyway, no.
Well, just to, because I think you'll like me landing on this point. Like,
yeah, go ahead.
So my approach this past year has been hanging out in other people's shows.
Yeah.
For a year straight, because there's so many more shows, and they're all smaller shows, but there's more of them, which is kind of cool.
Stop doing what I do.
No, yeah. Well, and you just develop relationships with people. You put on your white troll hat, and you just kind of friendly make fun of the guests, and you do that for 12 months.
Does it have to be conical? Does it have to be white?
I mean,
it can be black.
That's racist, sir.
That does remind me of a stereotypical joke, but I'm just going to leave that there.
Yeah.
I do have a series of questions that I want to blow through real quick. Just standard stuff that I try and ask everybody that comes on and talks about books, because first and foremost, I'm what people would consider, a comic enthusiast. I like to consider myself a comic historian. I've been reading since not since, but I've read from Action 1 all the way up to the early 2000s in Marvel and
You were a
DC. And
influencer.
well, I am an alt-right influencer as well, but I don't have to advertise that. Everyone already knows.
Okay.
But anyway, no, I've read a lot of comic books. I've read a lot of mainstream comic books. I've dipped my toes into the indie books deep enough to know that there's some great stuff out there from people like Robert Kirkman, and stuff like Criminal and True Crime comics have always kind of had their way with me. I like stuff like Irredeemable and Incorruptible, even though Mark Waid is a complete and total dickbag. I've read into the Elseworlds and the What Ifs and all that. So, first and foremost, I am a comic fan. I'm not sincerely just like, hey, Comicsgate, or hey, Marvel, DC, and I hate current mainstream books. But first and foremost, I consider myself a fan of comic books. And, it always just kind of interests me to find out, like, who were some of your influences in the comic medium? Like, what made you decide to start creating comics?
And why is it not Rob Liefeld?
Oh, God, Ayrton. Don't take shots at he might like Rob Liefeld. Why are you doing this to him?
Yes, but no, Matt can draw feet, or he can color feet.
Yeah. I feel bad. Like, I feel like a I don't know. Sometimes I feel like a wolf in sheep's clothing, which is made it hard. It's made it like a slow process to getting I guess getting CG people to like this product, because it clearly is coming from a non like mainstream US comics kind of influence, which I completely understand. So I grew up a bit overseas, and that's when I first learned about comics, was in just outside of America,
Right.
in various places. So I'm reading Tintin, I'm reading Asterix, I'm reading like Franco-Belgian type
Tintin,
stuff.
that alt-right dog, right?
Well, no.
Yeah.
Remember, there was a whole issue of Tintin about how Tintin was busy straightening out the Congo.
Yeah.
Yeah, he was only alt-right in Africa, and then he straightened up and went to China.
Look.
If I had a fucking nickel.
I'm just saying,
if you had a nickel, Ayrton, you'd have one nickel, and then maybe you could actually get some gear that works.
I'm just saying, all Tintin had to do was get about 1 million hands down in the Congo, and he learned the error of his ways.
Right.
Wait, I don't get that joke, but I'm not sure if I want to.
Hold up. So you don't know about the Congo genocide?
I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry. I took us down this route. I just wanted to make a joke about how Tintin was recently.
No,
canceled.
we're setting a good tone.
I
This is good. This is foreshadowing.
Well, no. This fits into the wheelhouse, though. No, the King of Belgium owned the Congo. It wasn't a colony of Belgium for a while. He just owned it, and he was a little aggressive in how he encouraged his labor force to work, and he thought it was a good idea to remove hands from some of his laborers to make them work faster. Even though you when you're mining diamonds, you tend to need hands.
Yeah.
Oh man.
So
you were saying Tintin is one of them.
Yeah. I actually want to tell a story in that time now. That would
go ahead.
Yeah.
That's where Heart of Darkness comes from. That's an allegory about the Belgian king and how everything went sideways in the middle of Africa.
Yeah, we're trying to figure out how to if we can get depending on how successful this goes, we want to do a Heart of Darkness type story, but set it in a surprising, like another like the 3rd century considered, the ass end of nowhere, which would be like Ireland or something. I think that'd be kind of cool. But
Ooh.
How
Well,
dare you?
That's the thing
So-
about
that's
the
my
thing about
ancestor,
your
so I can say that.
that's the thing about your product that I actually like is as a consumer of multiple media, you have not emphasized the sort of standard exotic places that everyone goes.
Yeah.
You've gone to some nearby ones, like you're going to ancient India, but you're not out of your way going to like, okay, now we gotta go to China, then we gotta go to Africa, then
Yeah.
we're gonna go to
China.
non-specific.
China.
And all of these things usually done in some non-specific way, as if they are cultural universals. They're monoliths. Like all Africa is inner Africa, or all Africa is Egypt,
Yes.
and it's like no, they're not that. All of these
Yeah.
cultures are different and are neat.
Or all Roman culture is in the Italian peninsula or something.
Yeah,
or in the city
exactly.
of.
Well,
And
right,
that's
like
not
Byzantium and Rome are identical culturally.
Yeah. Yeah. So it was all that kind of stuff. It was Adventure Comic, and just in general, outside of the US, as you guys know, comics are telling as they're telling every genre, just like novels do, just like TV
Right.
and movies does. It's a peculiar thing where it's really interesting how it evolved here differently, and it did not evolve that way anywhere else. From Brazil to Canada to Japan or.
The explanation for that, and we've talked about that on the show, but that all comes from the Comic Code Authority.
I thought so. It must have, because it
Yeah.
used to be very. You could get every kind of genre.
Well, right. You lost your horror and your true crime and your romance comics with the Comic Code Authority, and everything had to have that stamp on it to be on a retail shelf. Back when comics were dependent on newsstands and grocery stores for sales, even though those were their loss leaders. Before you had comic stores that actually sold comics for that, 50-year period. But
and would that we could go back to that, because I would have loved American comics, because I would think of it.
You guys had a taste of.
Speaking of overseas comics, are we ever going to review that Peruvian comic I sent you?
I can't read it. I mean, I'd have to translate the bitch.
I thought we were going to use like Google Translate, where you can like scan it or something.
Don't use Google Translate. Google Translate can't even make a C average translation.
But what I was saying though is you can actually get a U.S. comic experience overseas to a certain degree, because Marvel had those oversized books of like Captain Britain and Spider-Man and all of that stuff that were Marvel UK. And then you had a 20,000 AD over there, which was a huge deal. Heavy Metal, I believe, had a UK arm, if I'm not mistaken.
No, Heavy Metal was UK in a lot of ways.
Okay.
Because it's a European front. It's a bunch of Europeans who liked American comics, so they made their own comic magazine.
Right. So those were what I was thinking you were going to start with, but then you pulled Tintin out, and I was like, oh man, this guy takes it back. He understands.
Yeah. Well,
recognize real.
That's right.
And thanks. Because it's funny, because like when I came back to the US, like everyone was already reading like Spawn and stuff. Like that was like
well, the Image Invasion,
94.
Yeah, the Image Invasion was huge. It was one of the first things that really shook up comics since Marvel Comics abandoned the comic code.
Yeah, and it was cool, but it was like I didn't understand. I didn't immediately associate comics with superheroes per se, so I just didn't understand. And then I was already, you pick these things up, and it's almost like people, like everyone's kind of saying like, "Oh, I'm glad you like that," but we're not sure like if you're ready for that, because you don't have the encyclopedic knowledge of the runs and the
right.
Being a fan of like this different editor and this creative team on this, and I'm like, I just wanted a fun story, like, so it was a weird, even in the 90s, as popular as comics were, they were getting in that direction where it's hard for a normie who is used to, I don't know, Calvin and Hobbes trying to figure out how to read Spider-Man. So.
Right.
The same reason that I liked Image was why Image didn't have any staying power, right? When I was a kid, I liked Spawn for about a week.
Says Image doesn't have any staying power, and the most successful comic in the last 20 years has been The Walking Dead. Come on now, Aaron.
No, here's the thing. I like Spawn for its art. I liked the characterization, but as I learned more about it, I was like, man, this is kind of weak. But the big thing that I always thought was terrible about Image was that Image could swear, and it's not because I was against swearing, right? But I came from a naval household. My father was a sailor. I could swear better than my peers before I went to school, right? My thing is that their approach to swearing in comics was like a 12-year-old who just learned how to say fart.
Yeah, you came out, the doctor smacked your ass, and you went, "What the fuck, motherfucker?"
Yeah, exactly.
You smacked my goddamn ass.
They're like,
you F-slur.
They're like, "Eat me" is hard language. I'm like, that is not an eat me scenario. That is not the combination of words you use for this stimulus. So I was reading Dark Horse at that time, but the reason I bring it up is that I was reading Dark Horse for the same sort of reason you're enumerating. As somebody who read superhero comics and liked Cape Comics, I could never afford to get a subscription. I couldn't stick with a run to know what was going on. So I went with Dark Horse because Dark Horse had the very short runs, 1 to 5 comics.
That was me too, and it was picking up licensed stuff that was readily kind of like widely understandable, I guess.
Right.
As far as the genres like Star Wars, Aliens. And stuff.
I'm an Aliens and Predator fan, so I was like, I know these things without having to figure them out.
Also, those books are a lot more episodic than your standard Cape shit comics. Like when you pick up something like Alien versus Predator or Alien or whatever in any kind of mini or maxi series capacity, it pretends like you know everything or just enough about aliens, and it doesn't like reference too much stuff if you don't.
Yeah,
it's kind of a weird entry. It's kind of a weird balance. Whereas, hold on 1 second, I have children.
Yeah, well, Image
future comic readers.
Yeah, Dark Horse is definitely that's how it should have been.
Well, because like I said, I still read Capes, right?
Yeah, sure. Well, there's nothing bad with Capes at all.
And the Capes started following the Dark Horse trend, actually. Like, I read I want to say 8-issue Goblin War, because I'm actually a huge Hobgoblin fan, right? But at the same time, it's like, no, I didn't even care about specific editors. People were like, well, you can't read comics unless you know those editors. Like, why do I care who's behind the scenes? I'm interested in the product. My thing was like, I could never get enough horror comics from Marvel as a Marvel kid, and like I was never impressed by DC's like Phantom Stranger. I always felt that DC's horror was kind of light. So I'm going back to like the 60s and reading Weird War Tales to get my horror fix because I can't get enough Midnight Suns.
Well, there's a fine line, and it got broken in the late 80s, early 90s. But I've lauded this, and I feel like a broken record every time I get on air because after 2 years of doing this, I've said everything about comic books, like cliche that can be imagined, and I just keep repeating myself. I swear over to God,
you're about to bring up Secret Wars, aren't you?
I'm not. I made you do it, but
no.
Eric, let me finish. Let me finish. I've said it once. I'll say it again. Comics lost that episodic feel where you could just pick up a book and enjoy the Spider-Man story, and then put the book down, and then come back in 6 months and pick up the Spider-Man book and enjoy the Spider-Man story, and then put the book down. They lost that in the 90s, and it seems like every new story, every new character falls victim to that based on their success. Like if a comic is successful because it's fresh and new, it inevitably will become so bloated and drawn out that it will be inaccessible by the time it dies.
Well, I mean, we can actually say that is...
Go vote up Secret Wars for biggest problems in the multiverse. First major comic book crossovers. And fuck this shit.
The thing is, we can actually absolutely say that we are watching that happen in other media as well.
Oh yeah, well you can.
Television is trying to follow that Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah, television shows that go on for too long, like their success, obviously, like inevitably lead to their demise.
I try to watch WandaVision, and I get the.
Well, no, that's the thing. Like Classroom, you've got the shows that are trying to follow that Game of Thrones model, where it's 10 episodes set is an arc, and it's the whole season's an arc. You got to watch the whole season, right? And they do okay, but they're doing progressively worse and worse and worse, and they don't know why. And then you look at daytime TV. I know it hurts, but try, Ayrton. Try, church. Come on. You look at like Days of Our Lives. It's been going on for 40 years, right? And the reason it succeeds is they never rock the boat on format, right? They might have long-running arcs, but you can pick up at any point and watch an episode and know who's who and what's going on immediately.
My parents have been watching Days of Our Lives since the early 80s.
Yeah. And it never goes wrong. And people are like, well, why is that? Well, it's got to be soccer moms. I was like, no, it's because they got their medium right.
The hourglass, so are the days of our lives.
Oh, Jesus Christ.
But that is something that's really good about European comics and manga, is how stories have a beginning, a middle, and an end.
Yeah, and that's the quintessential. That's the form that they strive for, and it's single artist telling that story, or a single team. I mean, and they want to see it ended. So. And
then they go to Toriyama and say, I know we want you to stop Dragon Ball Z, but look at all this money we're giving you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, I mean, now I gotta ask. I gotta test you in your non-Cape comic knowledge, just because I'm curious what you guys think. If you've heard of it, Meta Barons.
Oh yeah, I have some Meta Barons.
I love the Meta Barons.
Mm-hmm.
There was a Humble Bundle recently. I got the whole set, all of it on the cheap. I've got digital copies of the whole thing in PDF format. It's beautiful. If you want them, I will pass them your way.
Yeah, well, I only have one trade paperback, but it's hardbound.
Oh, it's really nice, physical? My God.
Yeah, I know, it's weird.
Yeah, no, that's great.
But yeah, I don't have the whole thing, so I haven't actually read it all. So maybe I'll have to hit you up for that.
I only mentioned because, like, Star Wars, Star Trek, all of these things that are like space operas. It's like, no, nothing has the scope, in comics at least, of Meta Barons. Meta Barons is amazing.
Yeah. I think Justin Dutton in the chat, he's saying some interesting things. Like, first of all, like Hellboy, I think that really shaped a particular strain of comics readers, including me, in the 90s.
But again, I think that Hellboy is a prime example of one of those books that came out and it was so niche and it was so well received that now that there's so much Hellboy and so much Hellboy in the BPRD that chronologically it's hard to keep up with Hellboy's history.
Yeah.
Like you can still get a single serving of Hellboy because Mike Mignola is an amazing creator, but there is always an overarching storyline going on with Hellboy.
The thing is, I actually agree with a comment that I read recently, where somebody asked if Mignola just kind of feels like a caricature of himself as an artist. And I think it's kind of true. I think he's found a niche, creatively. At a certain level of art, and he's just not pushing his boundaries anymore, and that's unfortunate because I really liked his work for a while. I'm an amazing fan of the Screw-On Head, even though that series was not picked up because Sci-Fi Channel hates money.
They wanted to give us a fan of the Screw-On Head as well.
My mother doesn't have any legs, Ayrton.
That's
My
what
mother
makes
is
it better for
stoned
him.
out of her gourd right now. She's having horrible pains in her legs. So she's taking the good drugs.
Wait. She's having pains in her legs, but she has no legs.
Yeah, she's got thigh, man. She's all thigh.
Oh, okay.
Phantom pain.
I'm really
Well, it's
uncomfortable
funny-
with where
No,
this is going.
no, it's actual
Like,
pain. She's
you know,
actually
like
sitting
my
uncomfortably.
My ex was all
Or-
thigh too. So, I get it.
Yeah, see, no, this is better. If you want to start talking about how my mom is thick, you can do that. It's still weird, but it's less insulting to me.
Yeah,
I'm just gonna
can I
leave.
say,
I'm
like,
just gonna leave and let you guys handle this.
Yeah, but like Mignola was doing, there was some sort of fundraiser he was doing last summer.
Mhm.
He was drawing like cereal mascots, I think, in his style.
Yeah, I
And he
remember
was,
that.
you remember that? Yeah, that was going around, and they all have, he does pupilless, irisless eyes, no shoulders. Their mouths are hanging open and they're staring upwards, and they have kind of a zombie pose. And he can draw that all day and make $1,000 every time he draws it. But
Mhm.
I've seen it for 30 years, and I'm sick of it.
Yeah.
And and I think there's a lot of people since then. He's taken the ball down the field a lot. He did, but there are people who have since picked that ball and have taken it farther. Honestly, they're standing on the shoulders of giants, but they are standing taller than him now.
Well, it's like
It's
like the conversation we were having. I want to say last podcast, while we were laboring under the curse of Thick Moranis.
Yeah, I meant to listen to that just because I was so interested with the name.
It's horrifying. The thing is I think we were talking about Kirkman, and I was making the argument that I think his work is very qualitative, but his storytelling is extremely repetitive. He starts with a basic premise, runs that premise, as Church was asserting, kind of like television, and then that premise repeats over and over again until it becomes a non-concept. It's not fun to absorb anymore. Because Walking Dead, hugely famous, as Church says, it's, propping up Image. And yet, after 40 issues, I couldn't read more because it's just the same. They find a place, they think it's safe, they settle down, stupid shit happens. Everybody has to go back to wandering the world again because everything is terrible. I understand that that's the cycle of the thing. I understand that's the theme. But we know how the story ends. The story ends with everybody dies. Get to it.
Yeah. What do you guys think about Justin Dutton? He has another interesting point. If you could do it like manga, and you could just have a simple ordering system with these comics where you don't keep doing these number ones. I guess it's too late. I mean, the Pandora's box is already open.
Well, actually, I think that at least in mainstream comics, indie comics is a little more controllable, but with I always kind of take everything back to a Spider-Man, just because that's what I feel like is the baseline of the superhero, right? Like that is your middle ground. So when you think about Spider-Man, you can't really consistently write Spider-Man because the way Marvel handles its characters is, okay, well, I'm going to take it out of the toy box and play with it however I want to. And as long as I put all the pieces back in the toy box, it doesn't matter how many times I break them.
Church, I think we need a Spider-Man story about when Spider-Man was going to Studio 54 and hanging out with Eddie Murphy.
Yeah, and Eddie Murphy picked him up when he had that blonde wig on, but he was still in the full Spider-Man outfit.
Here's the thing. Usually, when that kind of story gets done, it's done kind of tongue-in-cheek, and it makes characters stupid. I think that's actually a great idea. I would love for somebody to do a period Spider-Man story with very young Peter Parker, fresh out of high school, going to the MC or State University. Yeah. Because he's Spider-Man, getting approached, like through the Bugle, somebody drops an ad and says, "Hey, Spider-Man, do you want a party? Drop name of someone famous." So he actually goes to Studio 54, and the actual joke is that even though Peter Parker's in the Spider-Man suit, he's still a nerd, so he doesn't actually get on, right? Being surrounded by all these famous people with all these drugs.
Oh,
but,
hey there, Spider.
but,
how about you take a bite of this pudding pop here?
But it's a Spider-Man story, so you play it straight. Which means that at some point, like, a spider villain shows up, something bad goes down, and Spider-Man has to save the day, and still comes off as a hero everybody loves. If you play it absolutely straight, it's amazing. If you try to make it some subversive joke, it's awful.
Well, that's a prime example, though, because if you wrote that story in 2021, that's a retcon of Spider-Man's history. So now you have a rewriting of Spider-Man's early days that no longer jives with 70 years of history or 60 years of history.
Well, I don't know, because, like, I recall I have a Ben Reilly era comic, right, where it had a framing device.
Oh yeah,
start to finish.
We're going to the Clone Saga to make our point. I'm already off to a great start.
No. I'm just saying it's Reilly era. It's actually post Saga, as far as I know.
That Ben Reilly is a part. Okay, he's a product of the Clone Saga.
I know, but I'm saying I believe it was post Saga, and then he died soon after because he wasn't profitable, which is kind of sad. But there was a Reilly comic where it had a framing device at the beginning and end, but the middle was actually an entirely different story because it was Ben Reilly remembering better days as Peter Parker, and it was all done in 70s style art, but with modern artist's work. And it was actually like a really good, I want to say, Kraven the Hunter story, where Kraven was being fronted by Osborn with a big case of money.
Okay, well, I'm going to keep my headset on.
Sure.
We have another 10-15 minutes of this segment left. Ayrton, Rune, do you guys have any special questions you want to get out about Wild Tales of Kyrie before I turn the floor over and let Larry and Matt pitch the last few minutes of the show?
I mean, is Kyrie how you pronounce it?
I asked that question to begin the show.
Yeah, I mean, if we're both thinking of the same way to spell it, so we can find it on Indiegogo, then you can pronounce it however you like, buddy. I say Kyrie, but Kyrie. I mean, most people are saying Kyrie, and that's fine. That actually kind of sounds cool. So 2 syllables is easier than 3. But yeah, we're having a lot of fun with this. I mean, people are liking it. It's I mean, just going with what we've been talking about, like, this has been on my mind a lot, is how can I give people short stories that don't have that you don't have to have any previous reading knowledge to get into. So all of these stories drop you in a place where you can you can just start fresh, and you'll get the beginning, middle, and end tale. Even if there's some cliffhangers, it's you'll be satisfied with all of these. And yet they're giving you these vignettes into the Kyrie-verse, which will help you.
That's like 28 points on Scrabble. I don't know if you can use that word in this show.
Yes. Gives you a
we're not monetized, don't worry about
it. Yeah. And and it's colored by me. People are liking my colors, but it's kind of directed by me to various extents, but it's at least co-written by me. And and you're getting a lot of value, so I've been able to pay for this. All the art's either, all the inks are either done or almost done. The only one is this ash can, Larry and I's ash can, which is about 3 pages in of 12 right now. So, but everything else is wrapped up ink wise. I just have to color it. So, and we're printing in my home state, so we're going to be fulfilling this summer. I have all the swag already made and paid for. Like I said, the art's already made and paid for. So really this campaign is just shipping costs and printing costs, which are not extravagant. So I'm passing savings on to people, onto you guys. So it's a lot of fun.
And we have PDFs we've already been selling to people in Europe.
Yeah. Trying to be thoughtful of them. I'm talking with a British person about maybe there's some other way to make it cheaper. I'm looking into that, but
That's something.
until then, it's PDFs.
That's actually something I was thinking about.
Save money, live better, Karasoth.
Yeah, no, I was thinking actually about that when we were on the Comicsgate UK dealy do the other night. Like, you partnered for what's his face from the Ukraine, whose name is completely escaping me right now. You helped him promote his book in the United States.
Yeah, Nashitobi. Yeah.
I think we need to start doing more partnership deals like that. I think that might actually be a good way to start selling books globally better.
Yeah, you partner with someone who is domestic to where most of your sales are, I guess, and where you're trying to sell them to, and then you get them to handle the printer, you get them to handle fulfillment for you. I mean, it makes sense. I mean, people were forced to do that because Indiegogo is only going to work with countries whose banks they trust. They don't trust Ukrainian banks. So,
there's I'm blanking on the dude's name, but he's been working with a lot of not American comic creators, basically, where they ship bulk orders of their comics to him, and then he distributes them out to everybody in the States.
Critical Blast?
Yes, Critical Blast.
Yeah.
And I know he's working on trying to get people in other countries like set up to do the same thing he's doing.
Oh, really? Oh, good for him.
Yeah. Or at least last time I talked to him, which was probably like 3 or 4 months ago. But
that's wonderful. He's kind of fit for that because he's a fan of all this, and he's a contributor, but he's not as busy with making his own. He's not making his own comic, so he's thinking like, how can I contribute more and profit more? And it's probably going to be that is being a fulfillment person.
It's a great idea. Because I think it's been so long. I can't remember how what the shipping was for me and Church to get Mary's Boys from the UK.
Oh yeah,
but it was more than
like $28 or so, probably.
I don't know if it was that much, but I know he did end up partnering with Critical Blast at some point during the campaign, and that brought the shipping cost way down, like cut it almost in half, just because of logistics. So that might be somebody you want to reach out to and kind of see if he has somebody in kind of like Eastern Europe or even Europe proper. Even somebody in France, Germany, or Spain could ship something to the Ukraine for a third the cost that it would be for you to ship one item over there.
Well, there's also if there's a question of printing costs. My editor, who lives in Ireland, when he and I were working on the Executioner, we found a real deal for bulk printing in Ireland, like a real good deal. And they were happy for the business. They were like, "Oh, sure, yeah, we can do that." We just weren't good at advertising, which is an entirely different problem.
Right.
Well, and with everyone using Mixam nowadays, and they have, of course, I think they're headquartered in Chicago, but they have businesses in the UK and Canada, I think. So. I'd like to see. We're going to use for Nashitobi. We're using Mixam, and I need to reach out to them and see. We put in an order for 500 books. Can we get 100 of them printed in the UK? That could be interesting in itself. But that could be a way to do it. Can you split? Can you work with one printer and have some of that be printed in different locations? But we're actually, Larry and I are going on with Critical Blast Monday, so we'll probably have to pick his brain for that.
Yeah,
he's a nice guy overall.
Yeah,
yeah. No, he's definitely cool. He's definitely has a very logistical mind, if that makes sense.
I would say he's more family friendly than we are.
Yeah. No, I get that vibe. Yeah, it's all good.
Hey. Hitler is more family friendly than we are.
I wouldn't go that far.
Well, I mean, there's only one of us
he-
here on the show who started the family, and it's church.
Yeah, but
Goddamn right I did. All you need is a little chloroform, folks. I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
Does this smell like chloroform to you?
Hey, that's just the name of my baseball bat.
How about that? How about that seamless transition into our more depressing topic? Huh?
Yeah.
Which topic is this?
That's what everyone's here for.
Yeah.
Which topic is this? I mean, unless we're talking about Alan Moore.
No, we're talking about
so
we're talking about an indie comic creator by the name of Slick Jimmy, ladies and gentlemen.
First of all, an important rule I learned in life is you should always be wary of somebody who voluntarily calls themselves slick.
Yes, and
Right?
and
Hey,
you know,
Look, it's called a pimp named Slickback. It's all one word.
Exactly.
you got to say the whole thing. It's like a Tribe Called Quest.
Let us say the pimp's prayer.
I'm glad that everybody here. I'm glad that
Make
all of
my
our
pimp hands strong and true.
all of us white motherfuckers really enjoyed the Boondocks, didn't we?
The
most hilarious thing in
Something
my
for everyone.
mind. The most hilarious thing in my mind, besides how much I hated Ed Asner in that show, is that Sam Jackson plays a white guy, and you cannot tell the difference in personality because there isn't such a thing as a black voice.
Also, Charlie Murphy plays a white guy too. Don't forget.
we got a code brown. What does that mean?
So
Say what again?
Slick Jimmy is a very delicate topic. We don't usually do this, but ladies and gentlemen, we are dealing with something that makes my fucking skin crawl, and that is inappropriateness with minors in any form or fashion, child pornography, that kind of thing. So if those are against your sensibilities,
I'm gonna go pour a whiskey. I'll be right back.
there you go. Yeah, I suggest you bust out your alcohol or step away at this time. I appreciate you staying around, and always check out Wild Tales of Kyrie #1 over on Indiegogo. The link is in the description down below. So Larry, I've always been a fond of your delivery and your just ability to keep a straight face when discussing just about anything. So if you would. No, I just kind of want you to give the rundown of the situation for anybody who hasn't been on Comics Twitter in the last week.
So, he did whose books did he work on?
He added some art to Jack Iron's like bonus pages.
Yeah, so he did some backup art for the Jack Irons book, and this is a guy he met sight unseen on the internet, and like said, "Hey, I'm going to do some art. My name's Slick
Jimmy."
Slick Jimmy," and you know that and turns out Slick Jimmy got arrested for possession of child pornography.
Yeah,
and they raided his house.
Over 2,000 images or something.
Yeah, it's not just like a little pornography where you could make the arguments like it was an accident or somebody else used my computer. It's like no, it was a profound amount of child pornography.
Well, 2,000 images sounds like a lot, but it depends on what internet form it's on. Like if it was on like something with videos, their actual individual still images get break down depending on the video viewer. But it's unpleasant and unwholesome. Of the highest
Hey,
caliber.
Dillard.
So and not only were there computer issues and whatnot, this person created a crowdfund comic that was successful.
20K.
That was basically fantasy art involving little girls.
You went there. Yeah. Well, yeah.
And
I mean, he
actually
we all
drew
remember
support.
the live streams where he was like, "No, she's actually 20."
Yeah.
And the story is that she's everyone thinks she's a little girl, but she's not, and that actually plays. It was already like that's actually a plot point.
Look, the lolly's 9,000 years old.
Exactly.
Well, I had never heard of this person. Apparently, they got around in the circles, and some higher known members of the CG community promoted some of their work. But what drew it to my attention was Cody from Jack Irons. Is really fairly distraught because of this, and is not is not in a good headspace because they worked with this person, and that's what first brought it to my attention.
So let me tell you a personal story. I was in a youth organization, and it's a youth organization sponsored by the Freemasons, and I was an active young adult member.
Do you teach people how to sacrifice goats?
No, we don't teach people. No. So I was there during a incident of sex abuse that was so bad that it almost closed the whole organization down. It was a guy who was perpetrating himself off to be a high-ranking cleric of the Greek Orthodox Church. And he was so good at perpetrating that ruse, nobody questioned anything he did.
Yeah.
So the big thing for Cody or anybody who worked with him is you don't know with these people, the people who are pedophiles. And as an adult leader in said youth organization, we had to go through mandatory training specifically caused by this person. So the people who are pedophiles are all very, generally speaking, they're very vivacious personalities. They're very outgoing when it comes to ones who are targeting children specifically.
Well, it's an opportunistic crime. I mean, if you're an you're an offending criminal, like it's an opportunistic crime. You have to put yourself in a position to where the crime can be committed.
Right, but
that's what's terrifying about it. But anyway, continue.
But when you listen to all the descriptions of who personality trait wise is a child sex abuser, you think, oh, this sounds like every youth sports coach, every school teacher. And it's not the broad general strokes, it's the little things. And going back to my own personal story, was a young man hearing stories of other guys going to hang out at this guy's house. He was letting them watch porn. He was letting them drink alcohol. And I didn't have the mental maturity to think, well wait a minute. That's something is really wrong here. Now, as an adult, I have the mental maturity that if a kid were to tell me something like that, I would know immediately there's something very wrong there. So if you hire some guy over the internet who's an artist, who seems like he has a good personality, seems like there's a good clicking and everything, and then there's this aspect of their personality that doesn't come up, you can feel bad because you associate with this person, and that's going to be a black mark on your reputation, but you didn't have informed knowledge. You didn't have the ability to get to the point where you're saying, no, he's not, drawing a 9,000-year-old lolly in a vaguely sexual form as a form of ironic humor. He's doing it because he has a deep and profound psychological disturbance.
See, that's my thing, is there are people who have a real problem that they're wrestling with, and we're not going to other or shame those people for having this secret problem that they're like taking drugs for and seeking professional help. They should, right? But then there are these other people, we call them child predators for a reason, that if you abstract it for a minute, they're basically like serial killers in that they exploit your trusting nature as a person to not see what they're doing. They exploit people who can't make decisions because they're free adults to do what they're doing. These are awful beings, and I don't actually believe that anyone who is loosely affiliated should have to either A, make the closet statement, I didn't know I wasn't involved, right? Or apologize. They shouldn't feel responsible.
Yeah, I don't know why everyone's falling on their swords.
My mom had a friend. My mom had a friend in the late 70s who worked at a grocery store, and a fellow checker was Ted Bundy. Is she now responsible because Ted was an active murderer who was in the area?
No, but let me posit this, and I'll play the hardball cop here. Here's the thing: the guy created a book and constantly had to justify, oh, the lolly's actually 9,000.
Yeah,
The writing was already kind of there on the wall, right? Like, I mean, and again, I'm not taking shots at Cody. I would never implicate him for somebody else's action. But how do you not see that? Like, this is something that he brought up in being naive or whatever.
See, I can't say that because not only do we have like anime media, manga media, which has a different cultural aesthetic, and some things you can get away with. But I think
the thing is, I don't read that shit either. Like, that shit raises red flags to me as well.
But here's the thing. There is a famous Belgian comic about a young girl who is nude for 90% of the book. Because in Belgium, they don't attribute sexual traits to that. Now, do I think that that's a good idea? No, but I'm not Belgian. I'm not from there. I don't make those decisions. I just don't consume that media. So,
well,
I cannot
to me,
operate
it was
on American presumptions about media. The fact that this guy was an American, as far as I know, and making this book, and then was trying to exploit our permissive nature, but it's like, no, it's not pedo. She's just 9,000. No, it's not sexually promiscuous. It's just art. It's like, no, that's the crime. The crime is that this guy exploited our art form to hurt us for his own pleasure. That's the awful part. And it's going to make all the indies look bad, more or less. Because now, when anyone brings up CG, or indie, or anything else, it's like, well, aren't you guys this bunch of pedos? Like, there aren't people with unhealthy obsessions or bad actors in the corporate mainstream. And we know there are.
Yeah.
I don't know who they are. I couldn't tell you, but I'm sure they're there.
Sure.
But we really kind of need to back up and focus on, because there's a lot of hyperbole going on in hashtag current year culture that we have to be responsible for everything, and literally not being responsible for everything makes you actually Hitler. Hashtag I'm not kidding, literal Hitler.
No, I'm exempt from that because I'm already an alt-right influencer, Larry.
You're already Hitler.
Yeah.
Right, like I'm already actually Hitler.
If you're already Hitler,
right? See, that's the big brain play. If you are actually Hitler, they can't call you actually Hitler.
Look, they're looking for army guys, but nobody's looking for a clown.
That's right. Nobody's looking for a clown with a bazooka.
Yeah, but see, that's the thing, though. That just means you're going to get a John Wayne Gacy. You're going to get another guy in clown makeup who kills people. Because that's what they do. Because that's what they do. They learn where the hiding places are, and then they go hide there.
But
well, can I ask? Did you guys see Rags Brian Ball's latest? I think it was yesterday. His comment. Basically, the only victim is the girls in those pictures on his phone.
Absolutely.
So that would be the other take. Even though he's done multiple kind of like stand up on the podium and give a speech about how he's not associated with these things and all this sort of stuff. Like I don't know if indies have been maybe they have been victimized. I don't know, but that's kind of like another extreme. So I'm just kind of curious what you guys think. Like, no one's a victim.
I don't want to be misconstrued.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to downplay the victimization of the girls that were in.
Oh, of course.
The material that is unthinkable. Yeah. They are absolutely victims, and the people who did that should be punished. What I am saying is that the fact that we have to stop what we're doing and fall all over ourselves and apologize and prove ourselves over and over again that we're not the criminals.
Well, we don't. What we need to do is we need to say
Well, usually
Well-
usually the key goal there, and I say this as the alt-right influencer, is never apologize. You never apologize to the mob, ever.
So
Because you start giving and you start giving and it never stops. Like that's one thing that Vox Day has right, and the mob never backs down. They always double down.
Well, because I was talking about this earlier. I'm not going to segue into another subject, but over in the gaming sphere, we've been apologizing for not being Satanists, right? And not being the gateway drug for drugs and
not being racist. You've been apologizing for not being racist.
For decades. We've been doing it for decades, and we never get a break.
No.
Until tabletop RPGs became acceptable to the mainstream, and now we have this problem where like a bunch of Chads are rolling in and acting like they own the joint.
that literally never happens, by the way. Like the whole girls being omitted from gaming has never been a thing.
No.
That's never been the actual reality.
But I'm saying comics have the same sort of thing. We've always been lurid. We've always been counterculture. We've always been violent to one degree or another. And we've always been struggling for not acceptance. The idea that we want people's acceptance is a fallacy. But we've always been struggling to be left the freak alone, going all the way back to Wortham and Seduction of the Innocent.
Yeah.
Because people have decided what we're about from the outside. And anytime that somebody actually does a bad in our community, it does reflect on us, and it does hurt any narrative we've tried to put forward that we're not some kind of bunch of monsters. Because all it does is verify what other people have already decided in their own minds.
Wow.
That's all I'm getting at.
Yeah. Well, to bring it back. Well, hold on. Let's bring it back around to the topic at hand here. I'll bring the article up from the arrest.
Well, I just want to bring up the kind of the generalized topic, if you will. So there's the meme of pedophiles get the wood chipper, right?
Yeah.
Which is a great meme.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong. And I'm going to say this as clearly and concisely as I possibly can. So I have a couple nephews and a niece. If anybody were to do anything to hurt them, there would be retribution from me, right?
I think we get the idea. I don't think you need to take it too much further than that.
No, dude.
Well, I'm
just for legality's sake, I think we can leave it there and understand.
There's a thing called due process. That's all I'm going to say.
Right.
But
there is a thing called due process.
Look, Ayrton, I'm not saying do something to anybody, but I am saying there are some crimes for which I have advocated to friends, hey, you live in California, drive up here and get me, then we're going to go pick up somebody else somewhere else and drive interstate to go do something.
Well, here we have the article. Apparently this happened back in February. And it just came to light last week, and that's where it crossed my path. So, 51-year-old Utah County man was arrested on 20 felony counts of sexual exploitation of a minor after police believe he downloaded 2,905 files of CP. So, this has been an ongoing thing. His book was out back in 2018, 2019.
Mm-hmm.
And he, like I said, he got around in the circles, and people just they had no idea. And he either, I don't know personally, but he either had a good enough cover that people believed him and believed he was a good person, or or you have to believe that all these people are culpable, and that's the harder pill to swallow, right?
Yeah.
You don't want to. Well, you don't want to assume culpability on everyone that associated with this person. But again, hindsight is 20/20, and you have to be able to look at it and ask the question legitimately, like, well, at what point do you start throwing up red flags? Jason Youngbluth comes to mind when I think about these things. because he had that comic about the little girl whose father assaulted her, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like, to me, that's a red flag. Like, hey, normal people's brains don't work like this.
Mm-hmm.
But Church, by that same token, what about the trend among woke feminist comic book authors of having extreme sadomasochistic violence of women directed towards men? Are you saying that those people are in their right frames of mind?
No. No.
Yeah.
But again, there's a difference when it's like all bets are off when it's a kid, right? Like for me, hear me out. Like, and this is an unpopular opinion. I'm all for art and freedom of expression, but I don't think that constitutes as art. I think that in my moral sensibilities, I'll take the high road of I can't define pornography, but I know when I see it. I can't define what's obscene, but this is obscene to me.
Well, no, see, that's the all important piece of language there. That's the clause that is the key thing, Church. What is art or pornography or offensive or not to you?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well,
unlike most people, I'm not sorry about that, and I don't necessarily impose my views on other people, but I will judge you based on those views.
But that's what I was going to say. Is that you don't have to feel sorry about it. You can have those views, and you can even be really nasty about those views. But the important thing we got to remember, the balancing act, the reason that this kind of thing is so hot button,
mm-hmm.
right, is in our zeal to expunge the problem, these kinds of things, to prevent this kind of thing from happening.
Well,
we cannot go the other end of the spectrum where people start saying like the David cannot be publicly displayed because the model was a 14-year-old boy in an era before modernity, and the fact that it has a naked penis is offensive to someone.
Okay,
we're not talking.
Thank you for making my point better than I could while being inebriated.
Yeah.
Well, let me take this to Church's level here. Let's talk about cockfighting.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Are we talking about chickens, or are we talking about two men wagging their?
No, that doesn't actually happen. I found out that gay sex was entirely a different thing.
We're talking about fighting with the chicken.
Okay. Trip to the bathhouse last
weekend. So when you arrest people at cockfighting, which is a crime, so don't do cockfighting because it's a federal crime, and both you'll suffer federal and state penalties.
Animal cruelty.
To tell Father O'Malley.
Inevitably, they find a very large number of people there with child porn.
Right.
What? Inevitably?
Inevitably. It's a very common thing because if you deal in the criminal underworld, going to a cockfighting thing is a common place to trade illicit goods and services.
Right.
Oh, wow.
So do the people who participate in cockfighting, which is, again, a long-standing tradition in multiple different ethnic communities, they feel a need to defend themselves against their association with pedophiles?
Well, no, but on the thing that they're not associated with the pedophiles again are being opportunistic and using the gathering of people who are already open to illicit dealings in order to trade their wares.
Exactly. So we should not ever acknowledge the bad faith argument of the people who say that you have to condemn person X, Y, or Z unless you have knowledge that makes you culpable. Now, hypothetically speaking, let's say you worked with somebody and you noticed a lot of creepy pictures of his children in very weird poses. Now, that's not enough for you to necessarily go to law enforcement, but it is enough for you to say, this combined with this means I need to call law enforcement and say you should check this guy out.
Well, see, that brings us to a real hot button issue, but I don't want to unpack this can of beans. I just want to see if this can of beans exists. Okay.
Okay.
And we're going to talk about my bias.
You don't feel like flicking those beans around?
But I want to mention that this is, I have a bias here. Okay. So feel free to disregard my opinions after I describe this.
Right.
I have a problem with the state of Utah.
Okay.
Okay, and that problem is called the LDS Church, which, in my opinion, is a cult.
You're talking about Mormons.
The number of stories that I have heard this month, not even this year,
I do want a set of magic underwear.
about child abuse, child exploitation, the murders, the consolidated power of the elders. They're doing a lot of nasty shit and get away with it because of their freedom of religion and the fact that it is an oligarchy as a state that very closely adheres to the written law without adhering to the letter of the law.
Well, and I'm not going to unpack the can of beans like you said, but I do have one thing to say on that. Is I had a roommate.
Can I unpack the can of beans just
for
a quick second?
We're getting back on topic.
That's an entirely separate topic for a different show.
Unpack the beans, but in a different sort of way. Hold on.
Well, let me make my one sentence comment here. I lived with a Mormon when I was a teenager.
And we have a former Mormon as a listener, by the way.
That's
so I can get her in here.
And my old roommate told me he was a former Mormon, and he said that he believed that the Mormon Church was like the #1 cause of sexual deviancy in this country.
I have been friends with multiple Mormons. I was actually taken to I kid you not, the local Mormons up here had a luau. And I was invited to it to because it was subtle recruitment, but it was still like, hey, look, free food.
Right.
Sure.
Hold up. So this sounds like a great idea for a topic for a whole show, because we could
do
we could do like the Chris Stuckman thing where he talks about his life experiences in the Jehovah's Witness Church.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. Like, this is
video.
Yeah, I was saying this is a different video. I just wanted to
get
say
a Freemason influence. Historical approach.
Illuminati.
I just wanted to say how much it aggravates me that I was not surprised that this is a man from Utah County.
I'm surprised at his fucking hairdo. Like, what the fuck is going on with his head?
Did he have the Freddie Mercury stash?
Did they bust him while he was shaving his head? Like, this is bothering me.
I don't get the little tuft in the front.
And the sides.
So I just want to bring up real quick. So I think out of everybody here, I probably have the most religious background. I grew up in the church, and I'm very, very well read and schooled in theology. And at the age of like 14, 15, I was arguing with church elders about scripture doctrine and winning. And a lot of the arguments that they make are legalist versus like actual practical moralities. Yeah. So they basically look at what the text that they're interpreting says and be like, oh, well, for example, tattoos. That was a big one back when I was a kid. Like, oh, you shouldn't get tattoos. That's wrong. And I was like, well, the Levitical text, it actually says don't get tattoos in mourning for the dead. And it says that because back, 4,000 years ago, the way they tattooed people, you would get infected and lose your fucking arm.
Hold up, bro. You there's a Jewish convert in the room. You haven't even gone to the deep enough level of it.
I was gonna say though, we're driving this train so far off the tracks too. Like,
you haven't even gotten kosher.
Let's get this show back on the proper rails.
Let me finish my point real quick.
I'm not sure you have one, Ayrton.
I do have one.
I'll be the judge of that, but continue.
I mean, expedite, man.
Yeah, get to the weenie. I'm tired of this bun.
The point is, a lot of those quote unquote religious arguments that the big religions, Mormonism, Catholics, evangelicals or whatever, use to excuse behavior for the highest levels are legalist and not actually practical arguments for the modern day and actually properly cite the text that they're referring to at the point. That's my point. It's
what the
very
fuck does
weak.
that have to do with slipping Jimmy over here?
I don't know. I don't know how.
What
There's
Ayrton's
nothing about
saying-
Slick
it has
Jimmy
to
that
do with
comes off as Mormon.
what Ayrton's saying?
Legalism,
I shouldn't have
if
said
you're
anything.
speaking
He's
from
still
a
going
legalist
now.
argument,
What-
me as a 30-year-old
What-
could
what-
groom and seduce a 14-year-old because that's what
what-
Joseph did to Mary back
what-
in the
what,
first century AD.
what-
In the first century AD, and that's okay because
What Ayrton's saying in his drunken rambling
We're going there. Yeah.
is that Slick Jimmy thought he could do this because he found a loophole to put his penis in a poop hole, and it's like, no, that's not how that works.
Yeah.
That's not how that goes.
He thought he could do that in Utah easier than
Yeah.
any other state. Apparently. No,
Rune, I just
don't
wanna-
know. Does anyone know if he's Mormon or if I don't know?
I'm
Rune?
not even saying he has to be a Mormon. I'm just saying he's in the state where these things go down, and people seem to want to ignore it.
Well, just because you can't get,
okay.
just because all the
Well,
liquor
yeah.
stores are state run and you can't get beer that's over 3%.
Yeah.
FLC Punk told me that.
Well,
but
all I know is like my radar went off when I saw this campaign in 2018, but it's just looking at something and making a judgment call, which is like, I'm not buying this,
right,
and it looks skeezy.
Mhm.
And from what I can tell, and I like what's his name, Cody,
yeah,
of you know,
yeah, he seems like a genuine nice guy.
Maybe he's more naive, or his
And that's-
radar is just tuned differently. But
and
I
that's
don't
what-
think he saw someone who was making a CP
His
bait
radar's tuned
and thought he'd
differently.
go with it anyway. I think he
There's
just thought
one
it
of
looked
the
fine.
night.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I get that.
You know.
And
But
I don't
but
hold it
think
against
anyone's
him.
to blame. I don't think any of his backers are to blame.
No,
you know,
I don't think
unless
it's anything to
he's
do with
actually
him.
selling
I
it
don't.
to-
I don't think it's anything to do with him personally. I don't think that he, has any kind of implication whatsoever. But the thing remains is that he obviously feels like this is going to impact his career. Like he feels like his career is over because of this association. And
He's
in
trying
certain
to get people to pay for a run of comics to replace the original run of comics.
Yeah.
well, and here's the thing with that. What's going on, Edwin? The thing about that is though, like, he's kind of right to a certain degree. Like at this point, now that this is in his past because of this association, in today's climate, he can't fuck up. Like he has no legs to stand on if he fucks up in the future and somebody digs this up and uses it against him. Oh, he associates with a known pedophile.
Or, he could say to literally anybody who wants to hear it, yeah, man, this was a guy, he hung out with everybody, thought he was cool, didn't really associate with him a whole lot, found out later he's a pedophile. I'm mortified that I didn't realize that. I learned some stuff about it. He doesn't have to apologize. He just needs to make a strong statement of, like, wow, didn't realize this guy was that way. Barely knew the guy, did some stuff, and found out later he was a terrible dude. You don't need to apologize for it. It's not
And
like, for example,
you don't need to amplify it either. Like I didn't
Yeah.
even know he worked on it. Most people didn't, and now they do.
Yeah,
Right, right,
it's
and
like-
that's the thing. Like, and where did it come? Because there are two trains of thought, right? Like, okay, you just don't bring it up, you don't mention it, you don't say anything, but because you're shipping after all this happened and somebody has brought it to the forefront, now somebody who's just pissed off at you because they backed your book a year ago and haven't gotten it yet, and it's late or whatever, and they've got their ass on their shoulders. Now they're going to be like,
Yeah.
"Oh, well, now you've got this bonus art with this pedophile." Ah! And
That's
it's
true.
a
He was
double-edged
shipping
sword.
stuff out like in a number of days with
I mean,
Slick
I-
Jimmy's art in it.
I bought an X-Men book because it had anti-Christian and anti-Jewish propaganda slipped into it by an artist from Indonesia.
Oh yeah.
I basically went to my comic shop and said, "Hey, listen, can you put that off to the side for me? I'll pay you for that. I know Marvel's going to ask you to get that back, but I will pay you for that as soon as I have cash." And then I came back later that same day and bought the book.
Well, that is one of the quintessential. That's one of the quintessential things, especially with the extremists who are trying to tell us how to make comics don't understand, is that by making something verboten, you also sensationalize it and make it desirable. You want it because you're not allowed to have it, and that's one of the dangerous things we got to avoid. Is we in our zeal to excoriate, that's right, using a big word, the bad things, we need to also not make people wonder about, well, hey, maybe child porn is like, no, there's just no, never that.
Yeah.
Because as a for instance, there are books I can't get now, or films I can't get now because they are deemed socially insensitive. That I want.
Mhm.
I want them in my collection. I want access
Yeah,
to them.
they don't really sell Blazing Saddles on the shelves anymore, do they?
They don't. And I was talking the other night to some
Hey,
friends
the
about
sheriff's a bone.
Black Sheriff. But I was talking to some friends last night.
Gets it. Oh Lordy Lord, do what he say, do what he say.
Candygram for Mongo. The thing is, I was
Mongo like
talking
candy.
What are your pleasures? Drinking, screwing.
The thing is, I was talking to some friends last night, and they made the example of Song of the South as being supremely racist, and this thing you can't get, and maybe that's a good idea.
Well, I mean, you can get it in other countries like Canada.
Well, I pointed out that not only did I take personal offense to the idea that Disney was curating what I had access to, right? Because I don't trust the corporation to tell me what I can't consume. But also, I had recently discovered from a YouTuber, a channel called Ask a Mortician. You should totally check it out. It's great. That the child actor who was in Song of the South, that was like one of his biggest roles, had basically been a musketeer. He'd been a Disney kid. And when he hit puberty, they kicked him to the curb, right? Like, brutally. And he fell in with drinking, he had a horrible life, and he died penniless and alone in an abandoned tenement, and he wasn't found for like a year.
Oh.
He was found by a pair of kids, and they buried him in the Potter's Field in New York, which is now being party to mass graves for the flu.
It's COVID field now.
I feel personally attacked by this story.
The thing is that because of the corporation's whinginess about other people having beliefs, even unpleasant beliefs, I cannot partake of this media to enjoy the last remaining, or some of the last remaining evidence of an actor who is a forgotten icon. And that bothers me, man. And then, bringing it back, because this is where we started, if they do that sort of thing to comics, because comics have questionable politics from, that's extra bad. Like, I don't want to lose Kirby because somebody decides that Kirby's art is good, but he's, but it's an unpleasant depiction of women for the 1960s,
Also, Kirby's art is good, but he might have voted for Trump.
Also,
exactly.
let's really contextualize this for a moment. Remember when Ethan was going to bring the guy who did Bone in to help him write Cyberfrog?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And this is different than some random guy who's doing a backup piece of art. This is a guy who's had very out there sexual beliefs, and he did them in his comic book.
But also one of the most famous indie comic creators of all time.
Exactly. So, but you remember how Ethan immediately burned that bridge?
Oh yeah.
Oh, he did? I just remember never hearing about it again.
Oh no, he spoke out about it.
Yeah, Ethan immediately disavowed.
Here's the thing you have to understand about EVS, Matt. is EVS has this thing where he'll have a daytime show, and if anything is wrong or says anything dumb on that daytime show, he'll throw a stream on in the middle of the night when no one's awake and disavow everything, and then just start over like it never happened the next day. It's brilliant.
Okay, I'm missing those late night shows.
Hand in hand with that, same sort of thing, is I mean, he's a famously misanthropic jerk. The guy that did Cerberus.
Yep,
No,
Cerberus.
that's what we're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
He didn't do Bone. Different guy.
I meant Cerberus when I said Bone. There's similar art styles, but
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, a white, doughy looking main character with a ambiguous.
Here's the thing. I knew that was wrong in the back of my head, but at the same time, I was right there on the same level with you, Larry, so I just went with it.
Yeah.
Justin Dutton's, he's got our back.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to throw Bone under the bus.
Yeah, no, that was not my intention. My intention was to throw the correct person.
Well, and here's the thing. Even in my headcanon, I remembered that issue of Spawn where Cerberus did the introduction, and it was just a character from Bone when I thought in my head just now. Because that's...
wait. So have we discovered a new part of the Berenstain reality?
Maybe.
Bone and Cerberus were done by different creators.
Yeah, they were just swapped. Where Bone and Cerberus were swapped. We grew up, it was Bone, and now it's Cerberus, and we never saw Cerberus.
In my mind, this is just like Bizarro read Berenstain Bear now. Bizarro
Bone Stain. It's the Bone Stain Manchurian effect.
Yeah, Dave Sim, Hex Helen has this.
Yeah,
that's the name. Jeff Smith is Bone.
But now that's a guy whose issues were well known before Ethan said, "Hey, I'm going to bring Dave in on bringing in my project."
Yeah.
Now, while I don't believe Ethan needed to go as far as he did, that's a situation where maybe in that you want to have culpability, because this isn't a backup artist. This isn't some random person you've not been able to vet. This is a guy who's had realistic allegations against him for many years before those allegations were a thing people took super, super duper seriously.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
so Ethan should have known.
Yeah. I guess he just knew he was canceled or something, and that was it.
Yeah, that was it. That was Ethan's excuse, and believable.
Well, let me extrapolate on that as we start to wind the show down in the last 10 minutes here. Something regarding, like, you were talking about it earlier, Matt, the YouTube channel, like having a delivery system for content in the indie sphere.
Mm-hmm.
It's something that nobody can argue that Ethan is very adept at. However, I do think he falls victim to overselling to a live audience, like on the spot.
Lately his shows are like 50% him looking at his own campaign.
Well, no, not just that, but I'm saying like making promises for certain things and then either having to walk them back or being called out when something like
that's
maybe don't announce that you're going to work with Dave Sim before you, like, I don't know, put up a Twitter poll and maybe just put a list of creators who you'd like to see work with and judge by the comments. Like maybe pitching to a live audience, maybe brainstorming live on air isn't the best policy when you're actually creating a product, because if he would have just put out a book with Dave Sim without announcing it, he could have just said, I mean, I knew that there were allegations out there, but I don't deal with cancel culture, and I'm an innocent until proven guilty kind of guy. But because of this, how this made my audience feel with working with him, I'm not going to be continuing that relationship. Whereas you put it out there like, hey, I'm thinking about working with Dave Sim. You put yourself out there and you're like, oh, well, now my audience knows I'm thinking about it, and they're all aware of his history, and they don't understand that I didn't care or I wasn't aware or what. It seems like it's one of those things where it could easily be avoided by having your main idea moments off air.
And also, Dave Sim claims a lot of his very unusual thought processes that led to that stuff came from him doing a lot of LSD.
As someone who has had encounters with that particular substance, fuck right off.
No, I know.
Yeah.
But I'm saying
Don't
somebody
go
less
don't go
worldly-
shit talking my psychedelics, asshole.
No. But I mean, someone less worldly, they might believe that. They're like, you say, listen, I was in a drug-addled state, and I was saying and doing things.
Yeah, don't
that,
don't give LSD a worse name than it already has. People already think it takes ice cream
the thing
scoops out of
is-
your brain.
The thing is, in conversation, I have never heard anyone accept that as an excuse with regards to alcohol. Oh, I didn't know what I was doing. I was really drunk. It's like, well, you shouldn't have been behind the wheel. You shouldn't have been beating your wife. You shouldn't have, whatever the answer is. It's like,
Well,
no,
yeah,
that's not
you-
good enough.
you should-
Why would you ever treat...
Hey, wait. Only if she deserves it.
Oh, God damn it!
oof.
I
No,
thought
Ayrton, 10 minutes in the chokey. Go sit in your box.
you want to fire him RuneKnight?
Look, I'm just saying
the-
that church isn't going to get monetized if we keep going along like this.
I'm never going to get
The-
monetized.
We're
Point-
never going to
no.
get monetized.
The important
ahead,
that I was trying
join
to
Patreon.
is
donate
that if we don't,
to-
if we
to the
socially do not
Streamlabs down
accept
below.
alcoholism as an excuse for misbehavior, then why should we ever have accepted that harder drugs was an excuse?
Hey, Ayrton.
Yeah.
You're fired.
Oh.
Oh man. It's been a while since you've done that. It feels nice.
Deep.
You know it's good when I'm the one not getting fired.
I kind of feel like I need to jerk off after that. Just a little.
I hate you so much. Anyway, no. Long story short, I don't.
By the way, I am highly uncomfortable by this entire conversation for the past 40 minutes.
Yeah.
I just want to throw that out there.
Oh well.
Well, it's better.
I didn't-
Can I say it's better to talk about it than to avoid it? And I've seen so many. I've been on shows where they're afraid to even mention it, even when the chat is talking about it. And I just think it's better to discuss it because it's there.
Well, long story short, my whole thing was I don't think Cody needs to fall on his sword for this, but I understand why he is. Does that make sense?
Yeah. He's a bit of a martyr.
When somebody gets
he does
nabbed
this
by
anyway.
the cops with 3,000 different files of child porn, we kind of need to throw them in the wood chipper.
Well, yeah, them. But the thing is I don't think that anybody that's associated with them is culpable for their behavior. I do think that this should be a wake up call. I do think this should be a wake up call. If anybody comes into the indie comic space and tries to make little girl books, maybe look at them funny.
Yeah, we need to upgrade our radar. We need to have a better fidelity to that.
That circles back to what I was saying about obscenity and pornography. You can't define it, but you know what it is, and there are different levels. Like one of our favorite guests on the show, speaking of Bone, is a guy named Bonitis, and he does furry porn. For lack of a better word, that is his bread and butter.
Yeah.
I could give a shit less about him doing that. I'm not going to partake in it. I don't necessarily approve of it. I'm not going to promote it in any other, aside from, having a conversation with the guy and letting him promote it. I'm not going to be like, hey, go check out the furry porn my buddy Bonitis does. But at the same time, like, is on a
furry. If somebody's a furry, I'm going to be like, hey, go check out Bonitis.
Yeah. But the thing
Maybe
is...
not on the show.
Right. But the thing is like, even if I don't agree with it, even if I don't like it, it's not morally wrong to me to enjoy,
it's weird and fucking creepy.
But anything...
But it's consenting adults.
But the thing is, for me...
Consenting fictional adults.
Right. The thing is, for me... And, well, here's the thing.
A box.
consenting fictional minors is still a problem for me, and that's what I was getting at. Like when you have the little girl book like that, that's not acceptable to me. You know, it's not okay. It's kind of like when Teen Titans tried to do the fall of the, you know, the Slade Wilson and Tara thing. Kind of made me made me sick inside. And you know, I was in a group chat earlier this week, and I was trying to, you know, wrap my head around this whole scenario, and I was just like posting Jordan Peterson memes about Hail Lobster to take my mind off of it, because as a guy with children, if you
analyze all the variables of the
well, that's the thing. Like I was trying to
that we're looking at.
I was trying to distract myself for the simple fact that I've got 3 kids, man. I don't like thinking about this shit. It makes my fucking skin crawl.
No, I mean, like I said, that's why I proceeded my comment with I have a niece and 2 nephews, and about to be 2 nieces and 2 nephews, and it's fucking crazy. But
look,
the whole thought crime is something that's hard to wrap.
Wait.
All right.
Rubicon Club comic pack is sold out, gentlemen.
Whoa!
All right, we did it.
We did it, Reddit.
Fuck yeah!
45 minutes of
and then
LGL
right now. Go buy Crystal Planet, the comic book issue 1 from Joe Satriani, one of my favorite guitarists of all time.
And Wild Tales of Kyrie #1. Link below in the description.
We're talking about wrapping up. Maybe we should pull this back to talk about a good book and talk about Wild Tales of Kyrie.
That sold out of its last Dakota ring tier.
Let's not talk about Crystal Planet.
No exploitation here, except exploitation of your adventurous spirit.
That's right, and you should exploit your wallet to buy this book.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But anyway,
well, we don't even have to exploit your wallet. That's the nice thing. It's $15
or $7 for the PDFs,
pages, or $7 for the PDF. You know, $20 for if you want a holographic cover.
Because I do know that there are international fans.
Or $3 for $35.
There are international fans here in the Church of Failure.
That's right. So, with that, ladies and gentlemen, thank you, Larry and Matt, for coming on. Rune, thanks for coming on. Ayrton, I fucking hate you.
Look, we'll put Timmy to bed.
Hold on, wait,
Timmy?
Timmy? Hold on.
Let him finish. Let him finish.
It's been a while since Church has said that, and since I've been fired, it feels nice.
It does.
Give me a warm tingle on the inside of my asshole.
Ayrton, we're not talking about warm tingles. We're talking about it. Wild Arm.
Get us out of here, Ayrton, before I just kill myself. Ayrton.
Yeah.
Get us out of here. What are you doing?
Oh,
get us out of here,
everybody.
All right, thank you, sir. Night, guys.